strength, and your word is true. Your loving kindness, your omnipresence, in my time of need, Lord, your mighty deliverance. In time of trouble, you made a way for me to escape, and I can truly say, Lord, I'm grateful.
Now we have the reading of the law. First, we're going to read Exodus, the 20th chapter, verses 1 through 17. Okay.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord would not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Now let's go into Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, read verses 13 and 14.
Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil.
Let's go into Revelation chapter 22, read verses 14 and 15.
Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without are dogs, and sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie.
So I want to thank the brother for reading the commandments, because, sisters and brothers, the commandments is the covenant that God made with us. And if we don't keep his commandment, we have broken his covenant. And we're going to show this to you. But before we get off into this lesson, I want to give a shout out to Brother Clinton Patterson in Guyana, Sister Madeline Joseph in Trinidad, Sisters Marlise and Erica in Switzerland, Sister and Brother Jean and Chanel in South Africa, and Brother Mwihi in Wales, United Kingdom, Sister Mbugwe in Dubai, Sister Gaga, New Jersey, and the sisters and brothers in Glasgow, Scotland, also the sisters and brothers in Manchester, England, and Isles of Wight, England, and also Sister Brandon and Susan Cole in Australia, and Brother Robert Rowe and family in Okinawa, Japan, and also to my lovely sisters in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. We're going to get into this, sisters and brothers. The title of this lesson is The Children of the Covenant. Children of the Covenant. Because what people don't understand is that God is a covenant God. What is a covenant? That is an agreement between individuals or groups or whatever. But it's all is agreement between two different parties, whether they're singular or many. And God, and that's when each one of them promises something. If I do this, then you have to do that. It's just like buying a car. That's a covenant. You give me the car. If you give me the car, I will give you money. It is a covenant, sisters and brothers. And the Lord only operates by covenant. And if you are not into a covenant with him, then he don't know you. And we're going to show this, sisters and brothers. But the Lord, when he brought us across the flood, he started dealing with covenants. He probably did it before, but I know for sure after. And we're going to start this in Genesis, the 6th chapter. And we're going to start at verse 5, because the Lord got to the point where this man had gotten so bad until he had to drown the whole world. He was going to kill everybody. But Noah found grace in the eyes of God. And let's see how the Lord operated from Noah even down to the coming of the Lord. Genesis, the 6th chapter, Genesis chapter 6, and we're going to start reading at verse 5. Genesis chapter 6 and verse 5. Okay, go ahead.
And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually.
Look like we're about there, almost there right now, sisters and brothers, but go ahead and read.
And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart.
Go ahead.
And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast,
Go ahead.
and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them.
So the Lord was sorry he made man. So he said, I'm going to destroy all of them. I mean everybody, because it repented me that I made man. You know, I'm going to reverse this thing. I'm going to kill them all. Because the Lord don't like wickedness, sisters and brothers. And that let me know that the law had to be then, or otherwise the Lord couldn't kill them. But he had some rules on this earth, and it's obvious that somebody didn't keep them. So he said, I'm going to kill them all because I'm sorry that I made them. Go ahead.
But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord.
But he found one man, and through this one man, his whole household was saved. He said, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And right away, the Lord did what he said he would always do, that he will not do anything but reveal his secret to his prophet. So now he's going to tell Noah what he's going to do. Skip down to verse 13 and go ahead.
And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them.
Go ahead.
And behold, I will destroy them with the earth.
Now he said, I'm going to kill everybody. I'm going to destroy the whole earth, but I'm going to save you. But you got to do what I tell you. Go ahead and read.
Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without with pitch.
Go ahead.
And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, and the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits.
Let's skip down to verse 17 and go ahead.
And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh.
Go ahead.
Wherein is the breath of life from under heaven.
Go ahead.
And everything that is in the earth shall die.
He said, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring a flood upon the earth, and I'm going to drown everything. Go ahead and read.
But with thee will I establish my covenant.
Now, that's when he used this covenant, because he's going to deal, because God is a covenant God. With you, I'm going to establish my covenant. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee.
Go ahead.
And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee.
Uh-huh.
They shall be male and female.
So now he told him, I want you to do this. And let's see what Noah did. Skip down to verse 22 and read it.
Thus did Noah.
Uh-huh.
According to all that God commanded him, so did he.
That's why he ended up inheriting the whole world, because he believed God. He had faith. And how do you know that he had faith? Because he did everything that God told him to do, sisters and brothers. That's what it is, a part of a covenant. You have to go into an agreement with God. Now we're going to Genesis, the 9th chapter. Genesis 9. Because after Noah had built the ark, and the flood had came, and he saved his whole household, and then after the Lord had made the water go away on the earth, then and Noah and his sons came off the ark, God blessed them. Genesis 9 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth.
That's after the Lord had taken all the water off the earth, and the ark had rested on Mount Ararat, and Noah and all of his family and all the animals that came off. So he said, now be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Skip down to verse 8 and go ahead.
And God said unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, and I, behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you.
Go ahead.
And with every living creature that is with you, of the fowl, of the cattle, and of every beast of the earth with you, from all that go out of the ark to every beast of the earth.
He said, I'm going to establish a covenant with you, your household, and all the beasts, all the animals. Go ahead and read.
And I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off anymore by the waters of a flood. Neither shall there anymore be a flood to destroy the earth.
Now, this is the covenant he made with them. I ain't going to drown y'all no more. And this establishment, this covenant I'm going to establish with you and all that dwells on earth, man and beast, that I'm not going to drown you no more. Go ahead and read.
And God said, this is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generation.
So this is a token of the covenant. And this token, we see it every time it rains. If we're in the right location, go ahead and read.
I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth.
He said, I'm going to set it. My bow, that's the rainbow you see when it rains. There's going to be a covenant between me, a token of the covenant that I made with man, between God and man and everything that dwells on the earth. Skip down to verse 16 and read it.
And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth.
Now, what is the Lord saying here? Look, I'm going to put this bow here. So this man going to get wicked and evil. We probably there already. I'm going to make sure that I have to remind myself not to drown y'all no more. So when it rains, I'm going to look on that bow, and then I'm going to say, okay, then I'm going to stop it before everybody's dead. Because I think if God hadn't done it that way, we might be drowned now. But let's go into Genesis, the 16th chapter. Genesis chapter 16. But the Lord is under a covenant. That covenant is, I ain't going to drown y'all no more. But the Lord put that rainbow out there to remind him that I have entered into a covenant with the whole world. So every time it rained, he looked at that rainbow and said, okay then, I promised that I wouldn't drown him. Genesis 16, and we're going to start at verse 1. So now that's one covenant that God has made with man and the beast and the whole earth. Remember, he's a God of covenants. Now Genesis 16 and verse 1, because we're going to deal with Abraham now. Go ahead and read.
Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children. And she had an handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar.
Go ahead.
And Sarai said unto Abram, behold now, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai.
So now his wife Sarai, she was barren and they was old. So now she wanted a child, so she said, take my handmaiden, and I want you to lay with her, and the child that she's going to bear, it will be she bearing for me. But see, that wasn't from God, sisters and brothers. That's what man need to wait on the Lord. And all you have to do is petition the Lord. He give you what you have need of. So what happened? Because, of course, Abram went with it. That's before God changed his name to Abraham. Go ahead and read.
And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian. And Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife.
Go ahead.
And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes.
So now Hagar got pregnant, and when she found out, she saw that she was pregnant, she hated Sarai from that day on. But go ahead.
And Sarai said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom.
Go ahead.
And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes.
At least she realized that she had done wrong. But go ahead.
The Lord judged between me and thee. But Abram said unto Sarai, behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face.
Go ahead.
And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way of Shur.
Now, once that Hagar started hating Sarah, and with Abraham's permission, she got real hard on Hagar. And Hagar left. But then the Lord weighed in on her, and he found her when she had run off and she was by some well. Skip down to verse 11 and go ahead. What did the angel say? Go ahead.
And the angel of the Lord said unto her, behold, thou art with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction.
Now and who is Ishmael? Ishmael is the father of the Arabs, sisters and brothers. And what this angel said about Ishmael, go ahead and read.
And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him.
Now that's about where he is too. So he's going to be a wild man. In other words, he's going to be fighting all the time. His hand going to be against every man, and every man's hand going to be against him. So when he's not fighting other people that's not Arabs, then they fighting among themselves. But this is prophecy. Go ahead and read.
And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren.
And they all going to be there. You're not going to scatter them like he scattered Israel.
Right.
All the Ishmael's children know their country. They got a country, they have a place, and they are in it. You know, some are migrating, going to other countries. However, but their country is still intact. So he said, look, he's going to dwell among his brethren. And they're all there together. Skip down to verse 16 and go ahead.
And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abram.
Now, that was, he was in his old age, but still, the Lord had nothing to do with that. But he went and he blessed Hagar, and later on told her to go back to your mistress. So she went back and stayed among them, sisters and brothers. However, the Lord had his own way he wanted to do things. So we're going to go into Genesis, the 17th chapter. Genesis chapter 17. And then the Lord's going to weigh in on Abraham. Go ahead and read.
And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect.
Walk before me and be thou perfect. Verse 2, go ahead.
And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly.
Now here you come again with a covenant, sisters and brothers, because that's the way the Lord operates. Now I'm going to make my covenant between me and you, and I'm going to multiply you exceedingly. Go ahead and read.
And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying,
go ahead.
As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations.
That's why he's called the father of the faithful. Yeah, he's the father of many physical nations, but he is the father of the faithful, make him the father of all nations. But we're going to point that out in this lesson. Go ahead and read.
Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham.
Go ahead.
For a father of many nations have I made thee.
So Ham means many. So he gave him a name to fit. Skip down to verse 9 and go ahead.
And God said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations.
So I want you to keep my covenant, you and your seed after me and all your generations. Now we're going to give us a covenant, which is a token of a covenant that became a covenant. Go ahead and read.
This is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised.
Every man child among you shall be circumcised. He said, this is the covenant here. Go ahead and read.
And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin. And it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you.
He said, now, we done made this covenant, but that circumcision itself is a covenant. It's also a token of the covenant that we made, a bigger covenant. But go ahead and read. And we're going to read about this bigger covenant later. But go ahead and read.
And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you. Every man child in your generations. He that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed.
Now, when he said, in them all that's born in the house and bought with money of the stranger that is not of your seed, the stranger, that takes care of everybody else that was not Israelites, sisters and brothers. So this money that he's talking about, bought with money, that represents the blood of Jesus. But keep your finger here, because we're going to go into Acts the 20th chapter, Acts chapter 20, and we're going to come right back here. So keep your finger here. So let's go Acts chapter 20. Acts chapter 20. And we're going to read one verse. We're going to read verse 28, because the Lord said that every man-child is bought with money from among the strangers. You should circumcise him too. So this is what this money represents, sisters and brothers. Acts 20 and verse 28. Acts 20 and verse 28. Okay, read it.
Take heed, therefore, unto yourselves and to all the flock over the which the Holy Ghost hath made you overseers.
He said, take heed to yourself. Watch how you handle the flock which the Lord have made you overseer. Go ahead and read.
To feed the church of God.
You bet. So I want you to feed the church of God. That's why he asked Peter 3 times, do you love me? He said, yes, Lord. He said, well, feed my sheep. So I want you to feed the church of God. Go ahead.
Which he had purchased with his own blood.
Which he hath purchased with his own blood. So when Jesus died on the cross, he purchased us with his own blood, sisters and brothers. That is represented by the money that Abraham used to buy strangers, because once he bought the strangers are part of Abraham's household, just like one that's born in the family. Ain't no different. Now let's go back to Genesis, the 17th chapter. I just want you to understand what that money, what it meant when he said a stranger that's bought with money. That represents a stranger that's going to be purchased, that's purchased with the blood of Jesus, sisters and brothers. Genesis 17 and verse 13. Genesis 17 and 13. Okay, go ahead.
He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money, must needs be circumcised.
Wait a minute. There's some strong words, sisters and brothers. Both of those words are absolute. Yeah. Must needs be circumcised. If you must eat to live, sisters and brothers. And if you do something that you need to do, that means that if you don't do it, there are going to be consequences. So it said, must needs be circumcised. Go ahead and read.
And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant.
And it's going to be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. Must needs, those are some strong words. Go ahead and read.
And the uncircumcised man-child whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people.
Now, we are not talking about just Israelites or the seed of Abraham. Physically, we're talking about everybody, the stranger too. He said the soul that is not circumcised, he's going to be cut off from his people. Go ahead.
He has broken my covenant.
He hath broken my covenant. That means you got to get in a covenant with God in every way that he requires. Go ahead and read.
And God said unto Abraham, as for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be.
Go ahead.
And I will bless her and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her.
So he said, look, I'm going to bless Sarai, your wife, and I'm going to give you a son also by her. Go ahead and read.
Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed and said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old?
Go ahead.
And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear?
Now, you know, the book tells you that Abraham believed God, and it was counted for him for faithfulness, didn't it? But he didn't believe him right here.
Right.
He said, look, I'm 100 years old. My wife is 90 years old. We ain't going to have no baby. Then he tried to put Ishmael as the recipient of the covenant. Read the next verse. Go ahead and read.
And Abraham said unto God, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee.
Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. So carry the covenant on through Ishmael. Because he just convinced that he, at 100 years old, and his wife at 90, could not have no babies. But then after God showed him what he did, then Abraham never doubted him again. But go ahead. But people don't even know about this. But go ahead.
And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac.
Go ahead.
And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him.
So look, Sarah gonna have your son, and I want you to call him Isaac, and I'm gonna establish my covenant with him and his seed after him. But go ahead and read.
And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee.
I heard you. I know he's your son also. Go ahead and read.
Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly.
Go ahead.
12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation.
Now, I'm going to make him a great nation. Go ahead and read.
But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year.
He said, so now Ishmael going to be great. 12 princes going to come out of him. Going to be a great nation. But my covenant I'm going to make with Isaac. Now let's go into Genesis, the 21st chapter, and pursue this. Because the Lord told him that Sarah was going to have a child, and that's exactly what happened at the time appointed. Genesis chapter 21. Genesis chapter 21. And verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said. And the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken.
Go ahead.
For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age.
Now, as the Lord had spoken, it had to be, because the Lord said it's going to happen. So she bare Abraham a son in her old age. Go ahead.
At the set time of which God had spoken to him.
At the time the Lord told him. Go ahead.
And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac, being 8 days old, as God had commanded him.
So he kept that covenant too, didn't he? Even though he's going to enter into a bigger covenant, he kept this covenant. Go ahead and read.
And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him.
So now he's 100 years old, and he had a son, because God said he was going to have a son. So Isaac was born when Abraham was 100. Boy, I wish some of them good times could come back. But let's go into Genesis, the 22nd chapter. We're not going to get off into wishful thinking. Now, after he had this son, and Isaac started and grew up some, let's see what the Lord did now to check Abraham out. And we're going to learn something here. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him,
Go ahead.
Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am.
Go ahead.
And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him therefore a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of.
He said, I want you to take your son, your only son that you love. Wait a minute. His only son, he got more than one son. He said, but I want you to take him down on Mount Moriah and offer him to me. Skip down to verse 9 and go ahead.
And they came to the place which God had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there.
Go ahead.
And laid the wood in order. And bound Isaac his son. And laid him on the altar upon the wood.
Go ahead.
And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here am I.
See, now Abraham, his faith was strengthening the Lord now. He really believed in the Lord, so he's going to kill this boy. Other scriptures will let you know that, look, Abraham knew if he killed Isaac that the Lord was going to bring him back. But look what the Lord said. Don't lay your hand on the lad. Go ahead and read.
And he said, lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him.
Go ahead.
For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me.
Wait a minute. He used it again. Now I know that you fear God, seeing that you would not withhold your son, your only son, from me. God's trying to make a statement here. We got to figure out what it is. Skip down to verse 15 and go ahead.
And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time. And he said, by myself have I sworn, saith the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son.
He said it again. Because you have not withheld thy son, thine only son. Well, how everybody, we just read that Ishmael is his only son. So Isaac cannot be his only son except for one reason. He is the son of the covenant. And the Lord only recognizes those that are in a covenant with him, sisters and brothers. That's why he wants us to, that's why he emphasizes it so hard. Thy son, thine only son. Why? It's because he is the son of the covenant. I know those that are in a covenant with me. But go ahead and read.
That in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven.
Because you have done what you've done and not withheld your only son from me, the son of the covenant, and I done told you I was going to go through this, use this boy. He knew then that Abraham had faith in him. And blessing, I'm going to bless you. Go ahead and read.
And as the sand which is upon the seashore.
And I'm going to multiply your seed as the sands on the seashore. Go ahead and read.
And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice.
And he said, and thy seed. Now this is another covenant we're going to show he's going to pass on down. In thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you had obeyed my voice. He letting Abraham know that the whole creation is going to be saved by your seed, because you have obeyed my voice. So you have kept the end of your covenant. Now I got to keep the end of mine and use your seed to bless all of the kingdoms upon the face of the earth. And I'm going to show you something. Abraham blessed Isaac, and God blessed Isaac to show you that this covenant went right on down from seed to seed. Let's go into the 25th chapter. The 25th chapter of Genesis, and we're going to start at verse 7. Genesis chapter 25 and verse 7. Let's let you know how the Lord passed this covenant down even to today, sisters and brothers, and beyond. Exodus chapter 25. We're going to start at verse 7. 25 and 7. Okay, go ahead.
And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life which he lived. And 160 years.
Go ahead.
Then Abraham gave up the ghost and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people.
I guess that is full of years, 175 years, but go ahead.
And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah.
Now, because his sons, they didn't have no problem with one another, so they buried him. Go ahead and read.
In the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre.
Go ahead.
The field which Abraham purchased of the sons of Heth. There was Abraham buried, and Sarah his wife.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt by the well Laharoah.
Now, what he did, he put the blessing right on down through Isaac, sisters and brothers, because he told you that, hey, in thy seed, which is Isaac, I'm going to make a covenant with him, not Ishmael. For as he's concerned, he is your only son because he is the son of the covenant. Now let's go into Genesis, the 26th chapter. Genesis chapter 26, because we're going to run this covenant right on down, sisters and brothers, to let you know that God, if you ain't in a covenant with God, he don't know you. Genesis 26 and verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
And there was a famine in the land, besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went into Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar.
Go ahead.
And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee.
Go ahead.
And will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father.
Because Abraham kept his covenant, all of it. Go ahead and read.
And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven.
I'm going to do it because I told your father I'm going to do this. Go ahead and read.
And will give unto thy seed all these countries. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed.
So that covenant came right on down. I'm going to give, but in thy seed shall all of the nations of the earth be blessed. Same thing he told Abraham. In his seed, so what he told Abraham, he told the same thing to Isaac. Go ahead. And why? Go ahead.
Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge.
Go ahead.
My commandments, my statutes, and my laws.
So now that covenant was etched in stone because of what Abraham did. This is the covenant that that God made with Abraham, and inside of this covenant with God made Abraham was another covenant, and that was that in thy seed shall all of the children of the earth be blessed, because you have kept my word. Now Isaac, he went to Isaac, and same thing, he passed the covenant down through him, and he told Isaac, in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Why? Because he is the seed of Abraham. And the ones that's going to come out of Abraham had to come through Isaac. Now let's go back up to the 25th chapter of Genesis, because we got to bring in somebody else that's going to make a covenant with. Back up to 25, and we're going to start with verse 19. 25 and 19. Okay, go ahead.
And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac.
Go ahead.
And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padanaram, the sister to Laban, the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived.
See, Isaac didn't take the trip that Abraham took. And instead of him dealing with a handmaid, he prayed to the Lord for his wife. And the Lord heard him, and she conceived. Go ahead and read.
And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus?
Now she had twins, and the twins couldn't get along while they was inside their mother's stomach. So you know they ain't going to get along when they're out of it. One of them is a usee and the one is a user. But then that's another story. So they struggled inside of her, and she wanted to know why. Go ahead and read.
And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her,
go ahead.
2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger.
It's not 2 nations going to be in your womb. 2. Who are they? Esau and Jacob. But go ahead and read.
And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb.
Uh-huh.
And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment.
Go ahead.
And they called his name Esau.
Uh-huh.
And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel.
Uh-huh.
And his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was threescore years old when she bare them.
So who is Esau now? Those are the people that the world called Jews, sisters and brothers. And who is Jacob now? That's us. The people that was brought over here and they're scattered all over the world as slaves, male and female slaves. So the one that called himself Jew, our twin brother. That's why he know more about us than anybody else. And we have a lesson to show you that in every generation, when they wanted to control us, they would go to our twin brother and he would tell us. Tell them how. Even when the Romans needed somebody to control Jerusalem and to set over them a king, they got our twin brother, Herod, which was a converted Jew, and made him king over Judea. That was the same Herod that tried to kill Jesus, sister and brother. Who was he? He was a converted Jew. But he is our twin brother, even though we're different colors. But still, we struggle in the mother's womb, and the Lord said, these are two different nations, and I will separate them at birth. Go ahead and read.
27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents.
So Esau was a hunter. He hunted for all his food, but Jacob was a plain man, and he dwelt in tents. In other words, he was a farmer. Skip down to verse 27 and go ahead.
And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom.
Now, he said, feed me with that same red pottage, because he was one was a hunter, and the other one was not. What verse was that?
That was 30.
Well, back up to verse, did you read verse 29?
No.
Read verse 29. Go ahead.
And Jacob sowed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint.
Now, remember, Esau was a hunter. At that day, he probably didn't kill nothing, so when he came from the field, he was faint. Go ahead and read.
And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore his name called Edom.
So now he asked Jacob to feed him. But look what happened. What did Jacob say? Go ahead and read.
And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright.
Sell me your birthright, because the oldest son, everything is given to him. So he said, sell me this day your birthright. Go ahead and read.
And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall this birthright do to me?
Go ahead.
And Jacob said, swear to me this day.
Go ahead.
And he sware unto him. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob.
Now, Esau sold his birthright unto Jacob, sisters and brothers. Jacob didn't steal it like some people say. Go ahead and read.
Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils. And he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way.
Go ahead.
Thus Esau despised his birthright.
So Esau sold it because the book said he despised his birthright. Later on, Esau tried to get it back. But the Lord had the mother, which he had already told her the elder going to serve the younger. She knew then that Jacob was going to be the one that the covenant went through, so she schooled Jacob on how to deal with it and get this birthright that he had bought. But we're not dealing with all of that. But let's go into Genesis 28 chapter now. Genesis chapter 28, because we're dealing with the covenants today, not all this other stuff. 28 and 1. Go ahead and read, because in the meantime, Jacob ended up with his birthright, which he had purchased, and Esau was angry at it. Verse 1, go ahead.
And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan.
Now he had blessed him. Why? Because he had already been settled that the birthright was going through Jacob. So he said, I don't want you to take a daughter of these Canaanites. Go ahead and read.
Arise, go to Padanaram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother.
Now I'm going to send you somewhere else to get you a wife. But skip down to verse 10. Verse 10 and go ahead.
And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran.
Go ahead.
And he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night.
Go ahead.
Because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place and put them for his pillows and lay down in that place to sleep.
Now, he went there on his way to his uncle's house, and he got and the sun went down, and he laid down and went to sleep, and then he had a dream. Go ahead and read.
And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven.
Go ahead.
And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it.
Go ahead.
And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed.
Told him the same thing he told Abraham, and he told Isaac. Go ahead and read.
And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth. And thou shalt spread abroad to the west.
Go ahead.
And to the east. And to the north.
Go ahead.
And to the south. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed.
So he passed that covenant right on down through Jacob. So to thee and to thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. He could not break that, sisters and brothers. Why? Because Abraham established that. So when two people make a covenant and the one keep it and die without breaking it, the one that's left living is bound to retain that covenant. In fact, that covenant become a right-out promise then. There ain't no changes in it. So he told him the same thing that he told Abraham and Isaac. Now let's go into the 28th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1. Genesis chapter, Genesis the 35th chapter. Genesis chapter 35, and we're going to start at verse 9. Genesis 35 and verse 9. But the covenant was passed right on down from Abraham to Isaac, and then now to Jacob. But why do you say, well, you know, how did it get around to Israel? You finna find that out right now. 35 and 9. Genesis chapter 35 and verse 9. 35 and 9. Okay, go ahead.
And God appeared unto Jacob again when he came out of Padanaram and blessed him. And God said unto him, thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel.
So that's the second time he had told Jacob that his name was going to be Israel. The first time Jacob was wrestling with an angel. And when the day was breaking, the angel said, let me go. He said, I will not until you bless me. He said, what is your name? He said, my name is Jacob. He said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. But for as a prince thou have power with God and with man. So now we have the name of Israel now, and everybody. And so that's when God adopted Jacob. And when you adopt somebody, you don't let them retain their name, you give them your name. Israel is one of God's names, sisters and brothers. And from that day on, Jacob and his children was called Israel and the children of Israel from that day forward. So now, we can't run all the Bible down in one day. So I'm just telling you that this same Jacob, he went out into Egypt because of a famine, and he grew into a multitude in Egypt. And the Egyptians got scared, and they enslaved Jacob, and after Israel, which is Jacob. And after 430 years being down in Egypt, the Lord sprung Israel and brought him out of Egypt. because the Egyptians had them under hard bondage. So now when they brought them out of Egypt, then God took them into the wilderness as a nation now, because they became a nation in the wilderness. But they had grown to nation size inside of Egypt. So when he came, brought them into the wilderness, then he started dealing with them as a people. We're going to start this in Genesis, what's it, the 35th chapter, right? Exodus, rather, the 19th chapter. Exodus chapter 19. Because now he have made a covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But now we're going to look at Jacob's children now, because Jacob is dead now. So the people we're dealing with, Israel, are the children of Jacob. Exodus 19, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Exodus 19 and verse 1. So we've gone from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to Jacob's children. Exodus chapter 19. But take note, all of them, God entered into a covenant with them, because that's the only way God deals with you. You have to be into a covenant with him. Now, if you're not in a covenant with him, he don't know you. Like he said, Isaac was Abraham's only son, and when we knew that Ishmael was his firstborn. Exodus 19 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai.
So now, the Egyptians had enslaved Israel, and so the Lord brought 10 plagues on Israel, and the last one, he killed the firstborn. And after that, the Egyptians wanted them out of there. So they got them out of there. And later on, the Egyptians changed their mind and tried to catch up with them, and the Lord ended up drowning their whole army, because the Lord really wanted to get even with Egypt for what Egyptians had done to Israel. That's why he told Moses, you go down there and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. But he ain't going to let you go, because I'm going to harden his heart, that I might lay my hand on Egypt. They'll let you know, don't owe God nothing, because he will collect. So now he brought them out and he brought them into the wilderness. Go ahead and read.
For they were departed from Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai and had pitched in the wilderness. And there Israel camped before the mount.
Go ahead.
And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel.
So the children of Israel are the house of Jacob. But go ahead and read.
Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself.
Go ahead.
Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people.
So he spoke to him and said, if you shall obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you're going to be a peculiar people to me above all people. But you have a stipulation. You got to keep the covenant. Yeah. Everyone that God had gave with Israel. Go ahead and read.
For all the earth is mine.
That he had given to Abraham, brother. He said, for all the earth is mine. Go ahead and read.
And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation.
Go ahead.
These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel.
So when the people use the word, the chosen people, what were they chosen to do? They was chosen to be the priest to all of the rest of the sons of Adam. Because the whole nation, he said, shall be a priest. Whole nation. So who did they have to be a priest to? All of the rest of the sons of Adam. So he said, you got to keep my commandments, though. Skip down to verse 10 and go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. And be ready against the 3rd day.
Go ahead.
For the 3rd day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai.
So now I want you to go and tell these people to get ready. Because 3 days from now, I'm going to come down and I'm going to meet y'all in person. That's how important that this covenant is with God, because he wanted to give this covenant to Israel as a nation in person. So I want y'all to get ready and come on down. Skip down to verse 16, and go ahead.
And it came to pass on the 3rd day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings, and a thick cloud upon the mount,
Go ahead.
and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled.
So when the Lord got ready to come down, the trumpets kept blowing, because we have a lesson we show on the memorial of the blowing of the trumpets that announce things. We got 7 trumpets going to blow before the Lord come, before Jesus come. But when he came the first time, them same trumpets was blowing, sisters and brothers. These angels blowing them trumpets. And they got loud and long, and the people trembled because they feared. What verse?
Verse 17.
Go ahead and read.
And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God. And they stood at the nether part of the mount.
Can you imagine that? He brought the people out of the camp to meet with God. Our forefathers actually met with God, the God of the whole creation. That means that they was important to him, sisters and brothers. That means that we're important to him. But we got to do the right thing. But go ahead and read.
And Mount Sinai was all together on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire.
Go ahead.
And the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace. And the whole mount quaked greatly.
Go ahead.
And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice.
So now, when Moses spoke to God after the trumpets got to blowing, God spoke to him by voice. So all the people heard the voice of God. Now, we're going to show you some of the things that he said. We're not going to do all of this. Let's go into Exodus, the 20th chapter. We're not going to read it all, because we read it every Sabbath day. And every time we have something at the Israeli God, we read what God is getting ready to speak now. So he spoke to the people. Exodus 20, and start at verse 1. Go ahead.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Now, Egypt is the house of bondage for us, sisters and brothers. That's why the Lord said we're going to go into Egypt again by ships. And now when we get there, we're going to be sold as male and female slaves. But it already told us he's going to scatter us all over the world. So Egypt is not all over the world. It's just one nation. But the Lord had already told us, too, you ain't going back there. So when it's Egypt to us, that represents a house of bondage. Because those are our first enslavers, sisters and brothers. They enslaved us. Egyptian black folks, son of Ham. Ham's second oldest son, Mizraim. So he said, look, I done brought you out of the house of Israel, Egypt, brother. Go ahead and read.
Verse 3.
And he said, and I'm the Lord God that brought you out of the house of bondage. And verse 3, go ahead.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
And thou shalt have no other God before me. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth.
And he made it clear. I don't want you making no image, saying that this is me. So anybody that have a bunch of statues and have windows, pictures on the wall and all this saying this is the Lord, you are breaking God's commandments. I don't want you to do that. But I just want to read just a little bit. Now let's look at what happened when the Lord got through speaking. Skip down to verse 18. Verse 18. And go ahead.
And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. God
held them there until he got his 10 commandments to them. And then after he got that, he gave them up to their fear. And they removed, that means they ran away from that mountain. Go ahead and read.
And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us.
Go ahead.
And we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die.
So God didn't run away from Israel. Israel ran away from God. So look, Moses, you speak to us. We don't want to talk to God no more. We don't want him to speak to us no more because we're afraid that he's going to kill us. We're going to die. Go ahead and read.
And Moses said unto the people, Fear not. For God is come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not.
He said, I come to prove you. So you will fear him all the way, always, and you will not sin. What is sin? Transgression of the law. In other words, you won't break my commandments. As long as you fear me, Because God knows that if man don't fear him, he will break his commandments. And that's what's going on nowadays, and that's what happened before the flood. Man stopped fearing God. And when he stopped fearing God, he started sinning against God. How do we do that? By breaking his commandments, which is his covenant. Now let's go into Exodus, the 24th chapter. Exodus chapter 24. You have to pay attention, sisters and brothers. A covenant is an agreement between two different people, a person and a group of people. So he's like, God came down to speak to you so you won't break his covenant. That let me know that Israel already knew what the covenant was. We think until it was written in the book that Israel didn't know. No, he already knew because he had told him. Otherwise, he couldn't kill nobody for sin. Because he won't kill you for doing something in ignorance. You're in trouble when you do it on purpose. That's why I said in Hebrews, the 10th chapter, if you sin willfully after you have received the knowledge of the Lord, ain't nothing waiting for you but the lake of fire. Even in Leviticus, when he said, if somebody sinned in ignorance, then you go to the priest and you make an atonement for it. But he got to do it in ignorance, not on purpose, because God ain't hearing a sinner. But 24 and verse 8. Verse 1, brother? 24 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
And he said unto Moses, come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off.
So now, once he gave him his commandments and his statutes and everything, he told Moses, come on up here. Bring some with me, but they got to worship far off. Go ahead and read.
And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come nigh.
Go ahead.
Neither shall the people go up with him.
Now, they can come so far, but they can't come near me, and the people can't come up at all. Go ahead and read.
And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord.
Go ahead.
And all the judgments. And all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord has said will we do.
This is a commandment, sisters and brothers. They said, and when Moses told them all, because they said to Moses, look, we don't want to talk to the Lord no more. We don't want him to talk to us. You go, you talk to him, and whatever the Lord said, we're going to do. So Moses did that. And they said, all that the Lord said, we will do. Go ahead.
And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and rose up early in the morning, and builded an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel.
So he wrote all these words down. Then he built him an altar. Go ahead and read.
And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord.
Go ahead.
And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar.
Go ahead.
And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord had said will we do, and be obedient.
So now the Lord sacrificed these animals and took the blood and sprinkled some on the altar. Then he sprinkled it on the book of the covenant. And then he read this book in the audience of all of the people, and they said, all that the Lord said we will do and obey. Now look what Moses did then. Go ahead and read.
And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, behold, the blood of the covenant, which the Lord had made with you concerning all these words.
So now once they agreed, see, if you're going to enter into the government, you have a covenant, you have to have two agreeing parties. You have to agree. So once they agreed that all that the Lord said we will do, once Moses read the terms of the covenant to him, then Moses took the blood and he sprinkled the people and said, now you have entered into the blood of the covenant. Read that 8th verse again. Go ahead and read.
And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, behold, the blood of the covenant, which the Lord had made with you concerning all these words.
Now, All of Israel had entered into a covenant with God through the blood. Because when you get in the new covenant, it's still going to be a covenant that is sealed with blood, sisters and brothers. We're going to show you later on. But skip down to verse 12 and go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount.
Go ahead.
And be there. And I will give thee tables of stone and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them.
Now, he could have said, okay, you got them written in paper, but no, I want you to come up here. And I'm going to write these in stone, which represents, sisters and brothers, that these commandments that he gave to Moses will not change until the last generation of man is on this earth. Come up here and I'm going to write them. Skip down to verse 18. Verse 18 and go ahead.
And Moses went into the midst of the cloud and got him up into the mount.
Go ahead.
And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights.
Now he went on up there, and it took him 40 days and 40 nights, sisters and brothers, to get these commandments. The Lord wrote them in stone, and he was teaching Moses. Other scriptures let you know at the same time. That's why I kept him up there so long. But what happened? When Moses came down off the mount, the people had already changed and slid back and had Aaron made them a golden calf, sisters and brothers. And when the Lord told Moses, you better get on down to them people that you brought out of Egypt, because they have quickly corrupted themselves. And Moses went down there, and he saw this golden calf and the people dancing and cavorting. You know how they do in the churches, jumping around and shouting. He got so angry until he cast the thrones out of his hand and broke them at the bottom of the mountain. But then the Lord told Moses, you got to come back up here, and I'm going to rewrite these commandments, because I want these people to understand that they are not going to change. Now,
Your son.